Look at this face. It moves, it speaks, it reacts to your questions in real time, but there is no human being behind it. For 4 months, a persona calling herself Victoria maintained daily contact with a target. She sent dozens of voice notes and conducted regular live video calls. The objective of this sustained engagement was highly specific, extracting a $15,000 deposit to secure a fabricated modeling contract. Past romance scams relied on human operators sitting in organized call centers, manually typing scripts. This operation replaced that human labor with an automated system. Because an algorithm is now managing the relationship, defending against the scam requires a shift from behavioral analysis to technical dissection. We are biologically wired to trust what we see and hear. When presented with a high-fidelity face and voice, our brains default to assuming a human source. Relying on that holistic impression is dangerous. Detection requires a multi-layer forensic matrix, a systematic dissection of the media. We break the persona down across 4 separate layers: still images, audio, real-time video, and network infrastructure. Current generative models prioritize aesthetic perfection over physical reality. They generate what looks mathematically ideal, not what is biologically accurate. Conclusive detection means looking for the spaces where mathematical probability fails to replicate messy human physiology. We call this the biomechanical gap. The analysis begins with Layer 1, the 34 static images provided by the target. Independent AI classifiers returned maximum confidence scores, identifying all 34 images as scratch-generated outputs from a diffusion model. This diagram highlights the complex folds of the human ear. Diffusion models often fail here, producing ear structures perfectly mirrored on both sides, a symmetry rarely found in biology. Background environments expose another failure mode. Elements like hotel lobbies show perfectly straight, mathematically rigid alignments that real-world lenses distort. Then, in-painting errors. At the edges of the face, individual hair vectors dissolve directly into the background texture instead of cleanly separating. When every pixel aligns with mathematical exactness, visual perfection is not proof of a real person. It is a major red flag. The illusion was reinforced daily through Layer 2, audio voice notes. Human speech is a physical process driven by lungs and vocal cords. Text-to-speech algorithms bypass that machinery entirely. These side-by-side spectrograms compare a human baseline against an AI baseline. Real speech requires an intake of breath, visible here as chaotic, low-frequency artifacts at the leading edge. The AI baseline is completely sterile before the words begin. When we examine the microscopic gaps between words, the human recording shows natural variation. The AI inserts silences that are identical down to the millisecond, a precision impossible for human lungs. The acoustic markers that link consonants to vowels, known as formant transitions, are also missing. Without them, genuine emotional prosody disappears. Current audio models effectively perform the acoustics of emotion, sounding warm or enthusiastic, but they fail the biomechanics of speech production. Layer 3 tests the live video calls. Generating video in real time requires massive computational power, forcing the algorithm to make structural compromises. Live face swapping relies on a continuous tracking mask. The primary point of failure is right at the lower jawline, where the synthetic face meets the real background, causing distinct microblurring and tearing. This processing load creates a measurable temporal delay. There is a persistent 80 to 120 millisecond offset between the audio trigger spike and the corresponding lip movement vector. The live system also fails to integrate with its environment. Directional light sources in the background often conflict with the pre-trained shadow gradients mapped onto the synthetic facial mask. A visible texture inconsistency exists. The highly rendered skin of the swapped face sharply contrasts with the unrendered, natural skin on the neck below. Because the live video feed demands the highest computational resources, it is the layer most vulnerable to cascading forensic failures. Media analysis proves the persona is synthetic. Layer 4 tracks the digital infrastructure delivering it. This node graph traces the messaging phone number used by Victoria. It resolves to an unregistered voice-over IP service. The activity window for this number perfectly matches the exact 4-month lifespan of the relationship. IP metadata extracted from the account reveals traffic hopping across 3 different geographic jurisdictions, relying entirely on commercial VPN exit nodes. The account itself was 8 months old. The operators aged it using low-activity, generic content for the first few months to bypass automated spam filters and build credibility before deploying the scam. Searching real-world databases for Victoria yielded 0 results. No social security records, no state business filings. The modeling agency contract was fabricated. A flawless biometric presentation online, paired with an absolute void of physical world infrastructure, confirms the identity is synthetic. The Victoria case is a clear signal of where organized fraud is heading. Multimodal AI operations are accelerating rapidly. Human call center operators require sleep, suffer from fatigue, and risk deviating from their scripts. An automated system runs continuously without degrading. This flowchart compares operational limits. A single human operator can manage 5 to 10 targets simultaneously. A single AI core can perfectly manage hundreds of simultaneous target nodes. The unit economics of fraud have shifted. Building a flawless, multimodal persona requires a high upfront capital expenditure to train the voice model and establish the infrastructure. Because the operational cost drops to near 0 once deployed, that entire initial investment is recovered the moment a single target transfers a $15,000 deposit. Automation has transitioned romance scams from a labor-intensive human grind into a highly profitable, infinitely scalable algorithmic attack. Surviving this environment requires active countermeasures. You can demand specific physical interactions during a live call that current generative models cannot process. The first maneuver is asking the caller to turn their head laterally. Watch the cheek texture suddenly tear and glitch into a raw digital wireframe. 2-dimensional face swap algorithms rely on frontal mapping. They struggle to compute the required depth geometry on extreme profile angles. The second maneuver is requesting sudden occlusion. Ask the persona to pass a hand directly over their face or hold up a handwritten sign. Forcing the model to generate accurate real-time text while managing sudden physical occlusion disrupts both its depth mapping and its in-painting logic simultaneously. Generative technology will continue to close the biomechanical gap, but right now, applying systematic multimodal analysis and demanding unscripted physical verification before transferring any funds remains your ultimate defense.